Hey guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts, and you see it all the time at the drag strip. When the cars, they do their big smoky burnouts, what they're doing is they're heating up the rear tires in search of the perfect launch. And what does a perfect launch look like? Typically it has the front wheels in the air as the rear tires claw for traction as that car runs down the 1320, better known as the quarter mile. If you haven't done a burnout before and you're not quite sure how to do it, then this video is for you. Stay tuned as we show you how to do a burnout with both a manual and automatic transmission equipped vehicle. Hey guys, if you like today's video, please consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel. We're going to continually be adding new videos every week, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I'm pretty sure you're going to want to see. Okay, before we can talk about how to do a burnout, the first thing you got to understand is the legal ramifications of doing a burnout on the public street. And I'm simply going to say is don't do it. Look, burnouts are for closed course competition only and where you're in a controlled environment. On the public street, you get caught, you're going to get a free escorted trip all the way to the jail, and your insurance company is going to remind you how happy you are that you did your burnout with increased premiums every time you get a renewal. In drag racing, we heat the rear tires up with a burnout to maximize the stickiness of the tires so that we can leave the line as quickly as possible. At a show in a burnout box, we do it to impress people and make lots of noise and smoke. Now, doing a burnout long can leave you with a bunch of broken drivetrain parts and heading in a direction that you really never intended to go. So before you ever contemplate doing a burnout, make sure that there's nothing in front of you or to the sides of you when you do your burnout. And the anatomy of what makes a good burnout is that smooth transition of going to full throttle while releasing the brake. Look, your gas pedal and your brake pedal are going to be passing each other. You're holding the car with the brakes, but you're bringing the RPMs up with the gas pedal to the point where you feel those tires start to slip. Look, if you're doing a static burnout where you're just going to stay in place, you're going to want to feather that brake while using the gas to keep those tires spinning as they start to get traction, because as they heat up, they're going to start gripping the pavement more. But the key word to all these types of burnouts or doing any burnout is being smooth. Look, in racing, you'll see where the race car drivers in drag racing, they'll do what's called sidestepping the clutch, which is essentially where they mat the throttle all the way down to the carpet or the floorboard and let the clutch go really quickly. And what that does is creates a very violent launch. Those cars, they are built with components that can withstand that kind of a launch. Your street car or even your mildly modified muscle car probably isn't. You sidestep the clutch with your moderately modified muscle car and you're going home on the back of a trailer. In a manual transmission vehicle, you'll rev the engine up to the point where it makes power, then quickly and smoothly let the clutch out and apply more throttle as the tires begin to bite. In an automatic car, you simply apply the brakes with enough force to hold the car while increasing the pressure on the gas pedal to find where the tires begin to spin. The idea is to keep the tires spinning through the burnout and that you modulate the gas pedal with the power needed. Tire smoke will tell you when you've done it right. Now, if you plan on doing a burnout and you've got a manual transmission or a stick shift car, your feet are going to be really busy. Look, you've got 2 feet, but you're going to have 3 pedals that you're going to want to try to navigate. The whole idea is to keep the car in place while doing your burnout. And there's a device called a Linelock that's basically a solenoid that locks the front brakes but allows the rear brake pads to release. The Linelock gets plumbed in between your master cylinder and your front brake calipers, and the way you use it is you apply the brakes like you normally would, then you push the button down that's supplied with the Linelock. Typically you'll mount it on your shift lever because that's where it's easy to get to, and then you release the brakes. While you're still holding that button, it keeps the front brake calipers locked onto those rotors. It releases the rear brake shoes or brake pads, which means when you go to do your burnout, you don't have those rear brakes trying to slow that wheel down. Look, without Linelock, you are going to build a ton of heat in your rear brakes and severely wear those brake pads down at an accelerated rate. So if a lot of burnouts are in your future, you might want to consider plumbing a Linelock into your front brake system. And something else you may not have known about doing burnouts, especially, well, primarily with street tires, and that is that you can actually overheat the rubber compound in a street tire to the point where you can permanently damage that tire. If you sit there and do a long-standing burnout where there is tons of smoke and a lot of rubber debris, that tire will actually become greasy and the actual molecular structure of the rubber compound begins to change, and it can get very hard. So just know that when you're doing burnouts with street tires, really there's a time limit to that. If you do too much of a burnout or too many burnouts with those, obviously you're gonna wear them out faster, but the big thing is the amount of heat that you're gonna introduce into that tire and the compound itself. So just be aware that if you're doing burnouts with street tires, there is a time limit. Don't overheat your rear tires. And when it comes to doing burnouts with leaf spring equipped vehicles, especially trucks that have very long leaf springs, just know that when you go from full braking to full throttle, that rear leaf spring is going to do a lot of different things. What it does is it creates what's called wheel hop. That spring will actually turn into somewhat of a modified S, and once it releases, it causes the rear axle to start to go up and down, which then makes the tire go up and down. So as that tire spinning and it's bouncing, it's getting traction and releasing, and it's putting a ton of stress on your drivetrain parts. I have never seen where someone has tried to drive through severe wheel hop with a street car that didn't break either a U-joint, a drive shaft, or a ring and pinion gear, or even an axle. So if you get wheel hop when you're doing your burnouts, just stop. Don't try to drive through it. Now there are some devices that are made called traction bars. Some people call them no-hop bars that'll bolt on and are made for almost every vehicle that has some sort of a leaf spring. So just be aware that there's something out there, a device that's made specifically to stop wheel hop. But if you get it when you're doing your burnout, make sure you let off the gas, just release it. Don't just chop it, but release it and put the brakes on to stop that whole thing, because you will damage the parts. Just like almost everything else in life, doing a burnout has its time and its place. Just know that not every time is the place to do it. Look, burnouts are useful in closed course competition, especially with drag racing. But if it's late at night, you're on a deserted road, and your car's just begging you to bury the throttle and to boil the hides, shh, I won't tell anybody. And if you're looking to increase the performance of your car, or maybe make it do a burnout a little bit easier, I'm gonna go ahead and include the links to the First Place Auto Parts Performance section, where you will find tons of parts like the ones I mentioned earlier in the video, plus so much more, and it's super easy to use. Also, be sure to check out First Place Auto Parts on our YouTube channel. We have over 100 videos where we look at new products, we show you how to put them on, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I think you're gonna dig. Guys, until next time, keep the hammer down and keep it between the guardrails.